I talked about how overkill combined with Jaws of Defeat can blast your opponent for a ton of life. So let's clarify a few things. It seems like a lot of people thought that I was casting the overkill while the grizzly bears was on the stack. Because while grizzly bears is a creature's spell on the stack, overkill obviously can't target it. But in that video, I'm saying that we're responding to the trigger of Jaws of Defeat, which means Grizzly Bears has to have entered the battlefield already in order for this to even trigger in the first place. And while that trigger is on the stack, then we cast Overkill on the Grizzly Bears. People think that the power and toughness are locked in at the time of when that ability triggered, which is not the case because if an effect requires information from the game, then it uses the information at the time that it's being applied. It will check the power and toughness of that creature at the time it resolves. Overkill will resolve before Jaws of Defeat, having that grizzly bear no longer be on the battlefield before that Jaws of Defeat trigger resolves. Wouldn't Jaws of Defeat go with the information at the time that it triggered onto the stack? Now, this one's on me because I had this ruling up in the last video and it's not really the right ruling to explain all of this. The proper ruling is the one that I showed before. If an effect requires information from the game, the answer is determined only once when the effect is applied. The effect uses the current information of that object if it's in the public zone that it's expected to be in. But if it's no longer in that zone, the effect uses the object's last known information. Even though the grizzly bears is no longer on the battlefield, Jaws of Defeat will still have last seen the creature as a 2-powered negative 9,997 creature. You said that the game doesn't like to use negative values, so it will try to use 0 instead of the negative value, so wouldn't the grizzly bears be a 2-0? And that's true, the game doesn't like to use negative values for some things. So what this rule is establishing is that positive values and negative values are something that exist in Magic the Gathering. It also establishes that there's some things that can't be negative. Basically, the rules like to tell you what you can do for certain things, and for that certain thing, what you cannot do for it. You can have values like a creature's power be negative, but you can't choose a negative number, deal negative damage, gain negative life. It specifically tells you what you cannot do. But nowhere in the rules does it specify that you cannot have negative toughness. So because nothing exists that says toughness can't be negative, we can have negative values for toughness. Now, since toughness can go negative, we can use that negative value for calculations. But if the results of that calculation is negative, then we use 0 instead. Which comes to my next point is the difference between power and toughness means subtraction. Power needs to be higher than toughness. Which they're partially right. It does require subtraction, but in order to find the difference between two numbers, we take the larger one and subtract the smaller one. Which the Oracle ruling for Jaws of Defeat says the same thing. So in this example, we take the larger number, which is positive 2, and then we take the lower number, which is negative 9,997, and we subtract that number from 2. So the equation is not this. We are doing 2 minus negative 9,997, which will give us the answer positive 9,999.